It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Be sure to go follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. If you're not watching the show over there already, go check out the YouTube channel. We've been getting Smitty Steelers in 60s. We've got Steelers Saturday Sit Down every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. So subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video or when we go live. And also follow us wherever you find your listening podcast as well, if you prefer to watch the show or listen to the show that way. Follow us, leave a 5-star review, and check out the description, whether you're on a listening platform or over on YouTube. You can check out all the links to our great sponsors, as well as year 8 of Rocking Around the 412. We got our GoFundMe link down there. It's our Christmas fundraiser. Been able to provide children in the local Pittsburgh area the Christmas that they've always deserved. And Smitty had to never worry about where it was coming from growing up. With the help of everybody that's been able to donate, we were able to provide children for specific families that we get lists of Christmas gifts for and provide them for. That's mainly what the GoFundMe is. Or if you want to donate to Smitty or I directly, that's where mainly that money goes. And then you can also partner with the East Rochester Salvation Army in the name of our late friend Dalton Keene and adopt kids off of the Angel Tree as well. That doesn't sound like it's kicked off quite yet, but it's coming up here real soon. But if you want to get involved right away, you can either share the message, or if you're willing to donate, you can donate either to the GoFundMe or to Smitty and I directly and go from there. We appreciate everybody who gets involved this time of year.
I was just talking to Kaylee last night. Actually, she put together the flyer for anybody that's watching on YouTube. You can hopefully see that right now for the Angel Tree portion. There's Dalton and Isla right there, a picture of them, and that's the flyer with all the information and contact stuff. So shout out to Kaylee for doing that. And then also talking to Mary Kay. She said hopefully, so start next week by the end of September, should have some tags to us. I'll have some. And then in October, there's more signups. So the majority of the applicants should be done by mid-October. So hopefully by then we have majority of the tags that we will have. So yeah, mid-October for sure, but certainly earlier than that, they'll start rolling in. So excited about that. More excited than I am to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers this week after that game.
More excited than
Sunday.
You were probably in the stadium as well, watching it happen. I mean, I'm sure you're excited every year to go into your first Steeler games at Acrisure Stadium, and you get treated with that game and as such. So
wind out of the sails.
What kind of experience was that for you?
So I'll be honest, this was a little bit of a different one because like start to finish, because since I stopped drinking, like I'm not necessarily like the biggest tailgate person. A lot of the times now I'll just go to the casino with whoever I'm going to the game with, just kind of hang out beforehand a little bit. But what with our boy Christian, Keek's Barbershop was with me at the game. Got up there early because the Rivers, taking a shot here, discontinued my parking. So I had to get a parking lease at a different garage this year. More towards like PNC Park. So I was like, let's get up there earlier. We'll figure out what we're going to do. Ran into Uncle Jimmy from Twitter. I think I showed you guys the terrible towel that he came out with on here a couple weeks ago. It's funny. Like I pulled it out of my pocket. I'm showing Christian. I'm like, hey, I know the guy that like collabed with the Pro Shop on this towel. And I look up and Jimmy was right in front of me, just like walking down the street with his wife and granddaughter. So he was like, hey, come with us to the Renegade Tailgate, which is in the Science Center parking lot. Typically where like some of the players' families hang out. Like I've met Highsmiths there and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, like Christian's never been there. We can go and do that. And then, ran into a lot of people from Twitter that I haven't seen probably in a year or two. So it was just really cool. Like, something that was different than from what I typically do. Met up with Pat's fiance at Jason Aldean's place that's out there now where Bettis's used to be to meet some of his friends and get the post-game field passes for Christian and I there. Went into the game.
Flex.
Yeah, went into the game. It's funny. We were talking like this. I was so excited about it because I was talking to you and I had the idea to do Smitty Steelers in 60 on the field after the game. But I was like, I'm not doing it if they lose. Like I'm not. The vibes aren't going to be high. I can't be on the field with players and families standing around me being like, this team sucked today. Here's who was terrible. So yeah, that just wasn't going to happen. Unfortunately.
Just shut a pat in the background as you're saying it.
It is what it is. Did not have the opener. And it was weird because very rarely do they have a game like that where it's they don't even have a chance at the end of the game.
Mhm.
Like it was with 5 minutes left or so, you knew that it was over. And I just haven't been to a lot of games like that, absent of 23, where I left like the Cardinals one early because of the weather delay and stuff like that. Very few games have been out of hand. And not that this was like super out of hand, but they didn't have a chance. And it wasn't like they ended with possession in a one-score game or anything like that driving. So not a great game, but still a fun time. I just enjoy the experiences and memories that I get to make with people. So not to get, like sappy or anything like that, but it was still made the most of it, made it a good day. But we're here to talk about the product on the field, not necessarily just my experience.
Sure. Although I do want to ask one more thing about the experience. You did post on the Around the 412 YouTube channel the offensive intros that they had to the game. So I just wanted to ask more specifically because it was in there, but I just want to know from somebody that was actually in the stadium, what was the reception like hearing Aaron Rodgers and having him run out onto the field like the first game in front of Steelers fans? How cool was that?
Yeah, so I actually started doing that. Was it last year? There's somebody that listens to, maybe she listens to this now, but certainly found me through Afternoon Drive, Brooklyn, that asked if I would start recording them and sending them to her. And I was like, if I'm going to record them, I'll just like upload them to YouTube and then I'll send you the YouTube link. Maybe other people will want to see them. So I started doing that a year or two ago. And it's cool and everything like that. I really enjoy it when it's at night, to be honest, just from a visual perspective. But anyways, in regards to Aaron, I didn't know what to expect. I figured that like him playing the way that he did in game one could make it even more exciting. I don't know that it was like anything different than, like Russell Wilson when he was getting announced last year or anything like that. I didn't notice that. To be honest, I thought the biggest innovation was DK Metcalf, just personally in stadium. And I don't know if it had to do with just in general the excitement to have him, or if it was because it was his old team. And even there were some Seahawks fans there that were wearing DK Metcalf jerseys. And said that they were still a huge fan of him, which I think speaks volumes to the impression that he left there, that those people still root for him, even though he's no longer on the Seahawks. So, not that Aaron got a bad reception or anything like that. I just didn't think it like stood out to me necessarily in a way that I didn't go in with an expectation, but it wasn't like overwhelmingly great to the point where I'm like was blown away by it or anything.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just curious what you thought. It's interesting to see the reception of the DK Metcalf and Seahawks fans that were there. I'm sure he left a great impression, and the Seahawks left a great impression on the field. So I'm sure that the fans that
I think there's an impression
had a lot to hear about.
I think there's an impression of both Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen from getting laid out by a fullback on the same play, still in the grass at Acrisure Stadium. Looks like a crime scene out there. I think a lot of questions that we had about the defense after week one and we're searching for answers for, we didn't get answers for. I mean, similar game plan here from the Seattle Seahawks. And maybe I just don't know ball, because I'm not necessarily surprised that Seattle won this game. I am surprised they won by 2 possessions, but Kenneth Walker is largely the reason that it happened. And I wouldn't have thought that was going to be the case.
I think that you look at what we talked about on Steelers Saturday sit down this week and the week before. Both games have gone not completely opposite, but nearly opposite of what we talked about as far as the approach from the opposing team on the Steelers defense and how we thought the game was going to go. I feel like we may not know ball, or there's just a curse on around the 412 right now where everything that because we talked about how much Zach Charbonnet fits the Seattle system better. He's their 1A to the 1B of Kenneth Walker, and how he was probably going to get the majority of the carries, just unfortunately for Kenneth Walker. And I mean, Allen on Steelers Afternoon Drive the day before, even his hot take was that Kenneth Walker was going to be held for under 25 rushing yards. He has 105 and a touchdown, including a 19-yard touchdown that pretty much put the game out of reach.
3rd and goal from the 19.
It was absolutely ridiculous, but it's absolutely ridiculous how wrong we have been the last 2 weeks. And that's not to discourage anybody from listening to us talk about football, but we're kind of on a stinker right now.
Well, and here's the thing is I think you got to be fluid with your opinions. You got to take your lumps. You got to take your L's when they come. If you're going to celebrate the W's, you got to talk about the L's. So, and here's the thing too. It's like 1 week, meaning last week against the Jets, maybe you think it's an anomaly. Now I think we got to start looking at things differently. Like maybe this defense just isn't going to be that good, like especially against the run. I think this is a real conversation to have because it's not only this season, it's going back to last year. It feels like a continuation of the warts that this team had last year. And I think the most problematic part of that is I'm not saying that TJ's still been great against the run, but I think that you're starting to see some chinks in the armor where you're questioning if he can still throw on that cape and match the deficiencies of this defense. Because it's a big, if you're not stopping the run, then you're not getting in obvious pass rush situations. And it's harder for guys like him. And I know Alex Highsmith's going to miss some time here now. Herbig, Sawyer, who actually I thought showed some promise in this one, took a pretty big step forward. It's harder to get in those obvious pass rush situations and produce a pass rusher when you can't stop the run. Everything feeds off that. But even though TJ has been great against the run, he's not seeing anything that he hasn't in the past, and he's just not winning right now. Will that continue? I don't know, but he only has 5 games out of his last 17 where he's registered a sack. He has 8.5 sacks in that time, but it's only been in 5 different games that he has one. I'm starting to think that we are seeing a little bit of wear and tear on him now. Maybe he is in a little bit of a decline. I think he can still be a really good player, but I just think it's going to take more of a collective effort at this point in his career to bring that out. And I'm just not sure that they have the ingredients.
Yeah, he's not getting any help. I'll say that. Like, he just not having the individual dominance that we've seen from TJ Watt in the past, which I'm sure is going to make a lot of Steelers fans even more rational about the contract that he was just given. But I think that whenever your defensive line is getting blown up like they are individually outside of TJ Watt, you're making the job for TJ even harder because now there's less effort having to go against TJ whenever you're not getting any help from guys like Keanu Benton, YA Black. I mean, these guys are literally getting blown off the ball. Cam Hayward's been fine, but he hasn't been his normal Cam Hayward self either. I think that both of those guys they're the beneficiaries of good individual play from those around them. But whenever you're not getting good individual play and they can get more focused on, they're just not doing enough. And that's not to say it's all their fault. I just think that the play around them from what you're getting from the rest of the defense isn't helping things for either. But I do think that TJ, and we had this discussion whenever we were discussing a contract extension for him, like he is going to age differently than a guy like Myles Garrett at the edge rushing position. It is unfortunate that those statistics that you said are true. Hasn't had a sack going back to last year in his last 6 games. And I feel like he's an easy target right now, and he's going to be attacked for that. But that's not to say that he's necessarily been a bad player through these 2 games. He just hasn't been as impactful as you would like a $41.5 million player to be. And I just think that the blame is, and I think that you talked about this, or you mentioned this in the Steelers or Smitty's Steelers in 60 this week, that you were planning on talking about like the divvying up of the blame and how it's hard how it's hard to talk about like how much blame to give certain individuals, coaching staff, players, and where to actually put the blame. I feel like it's hard to put the blame, at least through these 2 games, strictly on a guy like TJ Watt, because the guys to his right are just getting dominated. And I think that's an even bigger story. You want to look at how the run defense is better. I think of 2 things immediately. I think of Keanu Benton and co, and specifically like YA Black, because he's had a lot of snaps in these last 2 games, are getting blown off the ball. Keanu Benton is playing his worst football in year 3 of his Steelers career. And I also think that the linebacker play, Landon Roberts, if he was here, I'm not saying that it's going to be night and day different, but he definitely defended the run better than what we were seeing from Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen. I think that they're missing him right now.
Yeah, probably a good place to work in a transaction that they made. We'll talk about it right when we come back. As always, this show sponsored to you by Game Changers. What's going on, everybody? Smitty from Around the 412 here. Got to take a quick second to tell you about our friends at Game Changers. That's their logo. This is one of their shirts. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Doesn't matter if it's sports, music, movies. They got you covered with their designs. Over 5,000 different designs in that catalog over there. GameChanger.la. or pick6.la. You'll save yourself $10 when you use the code AT412 on your order. The link is below to both of those sites. Go check out their entire catalog. Again, 5,000 different designs. If you go with the black or the white, it'll be true to size. If you go with the pepper, which I'm wearing right now, or the ivory, they'll be a bit oversized. It's a heavyweight material. Beautiful stuff. Go check them out. Again, save yourself $10 using code AT412 at checkout. First interception as a Steeler for Jalen Ramsey. Cool to be in attendance for that, and was wearing the Jalen Ramsey Game Changer shirt at the opener. You can go grab that. That was also the one that our guy Chris Gillis won for our giveaway during week 1. So go check out Game Changer. Save yourself $10 with code AT412. Ju'Whaun Bentley, who I think fits the description of the type of linebacker that this team needed to add to the room, brought in from the Patriots. It's funny because I saw Aaron Wilson put out about the Steelers visiting with Ju'Whaun Bentley today, and I was like, oh, that's the linebacker who was with the Patriots, right? And I just do a quick Google search, and the first thing that pops up is him publicly calling out the Patriots for releasing Jabril Peppers, who then signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So now it's funny that Bentley is also coming in on the practice squad, but I think he's going to get elevated probably as soon as Sunday. Maybe he plays for a guy like John Radigan and just contributes on special teams a little bit. But that tape is ugly for those linebackers, especially in the run game. It wouldn't surprise me if they wanted this guy to get his feet wet in some obvious run situations against the Patriots, especially because like that's where he was. I know that they got, some moving pieces and it's not the exact same right now, but they've played a similar way for a long time. I think he can contribute in that area and familiarity with the organization. So I don't know. He fits the style of linebacker that I think is missing right now. Yeah. Would I love to have a Landon Roberts here? Obviously, but I can't snap my fingers and make that happen. And right now, Malik Harrison's hurt. They needed this type of linebacker in the organization. So I think they could have done a lot worse. He's a proven guy. Didn't play much last year. 2023 was still pretty solid. You're not going to ask him to cover anybody, run and chase or anything like that, but just coming downhill as a thumper, it's kind of what the doctor ordered there. So I'm all on board for this.
I think this is something that the Steelers needed. I mean, not necessarily a name that people are going to go out and say that this is a great signing, but from a player type and what you need on your defense right now. I said after the game that one of the things that is bad about this team is not only is the defense bad and performing bad, but I just think they look soft. And I think that arguably being soft is worse than just flat out being bad. And if you're going to bring in a guy,
Not to cut, I just wanted to add, to me, the killer B defenses weren't very good, but I don't think it was that I just don't think that the talent was there. To your point, I think that's a different type of bad. They were bad, but I don't know that I would consider them soft. I agree with the assessment right now that I just think there's I don't know if I'd say the lack of heart or what it is, but when your off-ball linebackers look like they have no interest and play in the run, when your corners don't look like they want to play against the run, sans Jalen Ramsey, you're going to get categorized as soft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why I think that the player type is right what the doctor ordered for this defense right now. You can't have a continuation of soft defense. Your linebackers have to be tough coming downhill. Watching Peyton Wilson after the expectations that we had preseason for him to what he's looked like in 2 games, I mean, I don't want to say he looks unplayable, but if there was another guy that could take his spot right now, I would perfectly be fine giving it to them because it's been so frustrating watching him at the linebacker position. It's been so frustrating watching guys just get blown off the ball. And I think that it doesn't help things for that matter whenever your defensive, specifically interior defensive line is getting blown off the ball. That doesn't help your interior linebackers at all either. It's at every level of the game. They are getting blown up and it's pushing them back and making the defense at every facet worse. Outside, the secondary, I think has been okay. If you're looking at every tier of the defense, I think the secondary has been performing the best. But even at times, they don't look great. Your corners outside of Jalen Ramsey don't lay on a tackle like you had mentioned. It is frustrating to watch this defense after the expectations we had entering the season and knowing where, at least on paper, we thought they were going to be, and watching them be a continuation of what we saw in that 5-game losing streak last season. And I got all this to say, I'm happy that they're bringing in a guy that I think is going to play with a level of physicality that might be able to spark and incite some of that with the rest of the defense, because right now, as I said, they're playing soft, and I think that's worse than just being bad.
We'll see about the availability of getting some guys back too. Tomlin said questionable at best in regards to Deshaun Elliott, Derek Harmon, Joey Porter Jr. We'll see what the practice week looks like in terms of that. Just talking with Alan and then talking with somebody else around the team as well, I'm not so sure if Tomlin wasn't just being a little bit coy there in regards to Harmon and Porter. I don't think Deshaun Elliott's going to play, but I think that there's a chance for the other two to return in this one, which would be massive. I mean, getting Derek Harmon back with as much as we've talked about the run, just like show me something else. I don't know how good he's going to be right away. In order for this unit to take like a massive leap forward, he's going to have to be very good right away. But it's hard for me to imagine him giving them worse than what they've gotten recently. So, and I don't want to give him this crutch because guys play hurt all the time. If you remember, something popped up with Keanu Benton in that elbow like shortly before the season started. I wonder if there's something more to that.
There's got to be. I cannot imagine there's nothing wrong with him. I don't know how a player regresses this much in year 3, considering the strides he made in year 1 to year 2. I don't know how he falls off a cliff this much. And granted, it's only been 2 games, but these are definitely his worst 2 games in a Steeler uniform.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think he was like some world beater. I think he was a good player, though. And yeah, just now he's just getting completely washed out in the run game. And as far as Peyton Wilson, like, this was a big question mark that we had. Like, it felt pretty good about what he could do in terms of a coverage linebacker and playing sideline to sideline, doing stuff as a QB spy. But like, this is where he was going to be tested. And right now he's not answering these questions in a positive manner. So they put a lot on his plate, and like you said, not necessarily unplayable, but they're just going to keep attacking this until they can stop it. And just like in TJ's case, the supporting cast isn't necessarily helping him mitigate that, but he's just getting exposed right now. And I don't know what the answer is, because I think it's just so it's convoluted. There's too many pieces to the puzzle right now that are missing. But first and foremost, you got to stop the run before anything else. And right now they're not doing it. And I don't know that they're going to suddenly be good at it.
And I know there's a lot of discussion about whether it's scheme or whether it's effort. And
yeah,
I think that there's a tough discussion either way. But for me, it is hard to put the blame on the coaching staff and the scheme that they are trying to instill in this defense when guys are losing their individual battles one-on-one. I don't know how much blame to divvy up and say that this is on the staff and the scheme when you have your defensive line and your linebackers performing the way they are individually. I don't know, even if the scheme was perfect, if your guys are getting blown up one-on-one and you're losing your battles, it doesn't matter how perfect the scheme is. Guys are just getting beat. And that's why I tend to side with players a lot, but I think that a lot of this blame through 2 games defensively is falling on the players because of their individual efforts.
Yeah, and because of how bad they've been against the run, like they're putting more bodies in the box, they're blitzing more this year than they have in recent history, which is leaving less guys in the back end. So you're getting some like single high looks where safety has to make a decision, and we've seen 2 times through 2 weeks where they've made the wrong one. Whether it was the Garrett Wilson touchdown with Darius Slay's the closest defender, or the Torrey Horton touchdown with Jalen Ramsey is the closest defender. Like, and this is where I go to like the blame thing. People just see the closest corner and think, oh, that's on that guy. We don't know what the assignment is. We have no clue from the outside looking in. And then when you ask questions, maybe you get a truthful answer, but who knows? We're just going based off what our eyes see. And in terms of like divvying up blame, everybody immediately points the finger to Mike Tomlin, obviously being the head coach. And you tell people Terrell Austin's the guy calling the plays on the defensive side, and they'll tell you that's not true. And it's Mike Tomlin's defense. With full confidence, I'm telling you right now, Terrell Austin's calling the plays defensively. Mike Tomlin might chime in here or there, but he's not calling that on a play-to-play basis. And I'm sure there's people going to be in the comments like saying I'm lying about that, or I don't know what I'm talking about. this is what I'm saying. Like, you can't have a conversation with people that don't know what they're talking about. So that's why I go to people debating something without knowing the reality. And like, how can you have a conversation with somebody without knowing what the division of labor is or where to place blame and who to blame? It's just, there's so many pieces to the puzzle. Ultimately, at the end of the day, when the product looks like what it looks like, there's plenty of blame to go around. You don't need to find just one place to put it. You can put the blame everywhere with what we've seen through 2 weeks from this defense. So that's kind of the way I look at it. It doesn't matter how you want to slice the pie up. We've gotten the results that we have through 2 weeks on the defensive side of the ball. So place it where you want to place it.
Yeah, I don't want to be all negative, though. I thought that even though the defense was pretty poor overall, I thought that there were some good individual efforts. Just to name a few individuals, you already mentioned him, but Jack Sawyer, I thought that had a good game in this one, considerably more impactful in this one than he was in week one. I thought Nick Herbig looked good in his role, and again, Jalen Ramsey through 2 weeks, dog.
You know what's funny is I saw people saying, like, outside of the splash play, they thought he was bad. Like, I know JSN got that catch to kind of be like the dagger, but I know they didn't even show the replay, but they showed it in the stadium, and I was even watching that matchup live. Jalen Ramsey, like, their feet detangled and he kind of trips. Otherwise, he had inside leverage on him. I think he might have picked that ball off. If Darnold would have still, even if Darnold would have still thrown it, I'm not sure if he would have noticed Jalen Ramsey's positioning there. But before their feet got tangled, Jalen Ramsey was in great position going stride for stride with him, and he trips. Like, what are you going to do about that? And then in terms of the touchdown, yeah, like, I don't know. Maybe he's expecting that safety to go with that guy. That safety has to make a quick decision on which guy he's trailing in that single high. So they've gotten burned on it 2 times through 2 weeks. Maybe they stop blitzing as much as they are, but at the same time, that's kind of a way that they're trying to. They got more bodies in the box because they're having trouble stopping the run. They're not generating much pass rush. That's what I'm saying. If you can't stop the run, it makes bigger problems elsewhere. It's a trickle down effect, but it all comes off that initial thing. You got to stop the run first and foremost. Everything else plays off of that.
Yeah. 3 guys on the defense had 100% of the snaps. Juan Thornhill, Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey, Chuck Clark getting 88% of the snaps with 57.
Yeah.
Was it interesting to you that Jabril Peppers didn't even get a defensive snap, or did you figure that might happen?
Well, so I thought you were going to ask about Clark playing as much as he did compared to Peppers.
Well,
I'll say I'm surprised.
It kind of goes hand in hand, just because Clark played 88% of the snaps and Peppers didn't at all. We didn't think that he would have a big impact defensively, but I didn't necessarily think that. I thought he wouldn't even play 1 snap. I mean, Carson Bruner got 1 defensive snap. Nothing against Carson Bruner, but I feel like that's even worse against the linebackers that Carson Bruner had a defensive snap.
Yeah, Queen and Wilson both got hurt in this game. Queen oblique. Peyton Wilson not even listed on the injury report, but he was dealing with something in game. He actually threw up on the field. So I don't know what happened, if he just like got the wind knocked out of him or like landed his stomach on the ball or whatever. And that was like his reflex. I don't know, but he got sick on the field. So he was dealing with something. So yeah, Bruner ended up playing a snap. Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that Peppers wouldn't have played at all, but I'm not surprised that Clark played that much right away. I mean, Peppers had just signed. I think that will start to work more towards an even split as time goes on, potentially. But then, by then, who knows, Deshaun Elliott could be back. So I don't know. This Patriots game, I would think that we definitely see more Peppers, not necessarily more than Clark, but I think he'll get on the field defensively for sure after another week of practice. So, yeah.
You saw a slight decrease of TJ Watt's snap count, 77%.
Which is interesting after Highsmith gets hurt.
Yeah. Highsmith got hurt and his snap still went down. Last week, he and Highsmith were at 88 and 89% respectfully. Nick Herbig actually had 1 more snap than TJ Watt did in this game, and Jack Sawyer's snap count went up to 40%.
Before Highsmith got hurt, on third downs, they had all 3 on the field together. 2 different times on third down. They had Watt, Highsmith, and Herbig. And I was like, yes, this is what we want to see. And then Highsmith gets hurt. And to be honest, like, injuries are what they are. Man, like for him, they're starting to mount. Like I feel like we're talking about this way too often. I love Alex, great dude, great family, but like I feel like this has to be a bigger conversation at this point for how much time this guy's missed as of late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is concerning to see how much time he's been off the field, especially when the Steelers are kind of built to. They are completely bought into T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith being their predominant edge rushers. Nothing against Nick Herbig and Jack Sawyer, but they're kind of two specialists, and the specialty is opposite of each other. I don't think that either one of those guys are going to be your regular like edge two, or at least shouldn't be. And so it is concerning to me how much Alex Highsmith has been missing in recent years. And I feel like that's just kind of been a spell of the edge position for the Steelers in recent years too. Even with TJ Watt, not quite as much as Alex Highsmith, but you've seen a lot of injuries in that edge position. Yeah. And I think that's why we were so concerned about the depth of that position going into the year, how essentially like Malik Harrison was going to be your edge 5 pseudo. If you had any of those guys come down, he goes down with an injury, and now the Steelers are going to be looking at what to do. I mean, I'm assuming that they'll elevate DeMarvin Leal. Would that be what you think that they are planning on doing, or how do you think that gets figured out with Alex Highsmith being out?
Yeah, probably. That was my first thought, was that would be what they did. I mean, I can't see them wanting to play with just 3 because, like, I mean,
if
Peyton
one more
Wilson
goes
also,
down, what do you do?
Right. And we just talked about, I mean, Herbig had an injury that he missed week 1. TJ doesn't have the cleanest bill of health. Yeah, I would say my prediction is DeMarvin Leal does get elevated for that game. So, but we'll see. We've spent so much time talking about the defense. I think we got to talk about this offense a little bit before we dive into.
Before you talk about the offense, I just want to say I think the biggest one to get back this week, if he is healthy, is Derek Harmon, because of how bad the run defense has been. I think that they're really hankering for a new guy on that defensive line to see what kind of impact he have, especially looking at what Benton and Black have done. It just hasn't been pretty. I feel like you need to get that help. If I had to pick one to have play on Sunday between him and Joey Porter Jr., I would pick Derek Harmon just to see if the run defense could improve at all, even in the slightest.
And hopefully a guy that can push the pocket from the interior as well. You know, I don't know that we've seen enough of that here early on in the season. So, but yeah, it all flows through the run game. You got to stop the run first and foremost, and hopefully they're able to. We'll flip and talk about the offensive side of the ball as soon as I tell you guys about Keats Barbershop. Smitty from Around the 412 here, and while I may not have much hair, the hair that I do have will not be cut by anybody besides Keat at Keats Barbershop. My friend Christian Circle, been with us since day one. Keats Barbershop, located 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Download the app The Cut, book an appointment with Christian today, or you can do walk-in with Tony or Ashley. But again, Keats Barbershop, 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Go check them out. Old school vibe in there. Absolutely love it. Cannot recommend them enough. Wouldn't go anywhere else. Maybe I'll see you there. We have spent basically the entire show so far talking about the defense side of the ball through 2 weeks. The offensive side of the ball, the passing game looked really good in week 1. We were curious if that would carry over into week 2. Similarly to how we talked about, just our predictions being pretty wrong. I thought the tight ends were in line for a huge day here. Jaylen Warren, I thought, was the best player and probably has been from an efficiency standpoint and an effectiveness standpoint for the Steelers through 2 weeks. I didn't think they used him enough in week 1. Still probably saw too much of Kenny Gainwell. 36-26 or something like that were the snaps for Jaylen Warren to Gainwell. Still too close to me. Jaylen Warren needs to be on the field as much as possible. He's been their best player, I would say, even including the defense through 2 weeks. And I just... be honest, going back and watching, saw a step forward from Broderick Jones. If you're looking for a silver lining on the offensive side, I didn't think that the offensive line played so bad that Aaron couldn't have replicated his week 1. I thought Aaron wasn't very good in this one. And all credit to Mike McDonald. I mean, don't get me wrong. We talked about how good this defense is. To me, he's one of the best defensive minds, maybe the best defensive mind in football. Right up there with, do I really like Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator for the Chargers. You saw what he just did to Geno Smith, had him in a blender that entire game. but he's right up there for me. And I thought that he threw a lot of different stuff at Aaron. Aaron was confused, a lot of coverage sacks, in my opinion, on the back end. And to be honest, there's not a lot of separation going back and watching as well, which is also going to lead you to some coverage sacks and coverage pressure. So, yeah, I thought it was a rough outing for the offense in general. Not like we saw them take a massive stride in terms of running the ball either. I don't think that they were as bad as week one, but I mean, a fluke play where Calvin Austin just doesn't do what he's supposed to do, and in most situations would. We might have seen another touchdown. Maybe he gets that ball to Pat, which is what Aaron was trying to do on that one at the back pylon, and they would have put up what would have been 24 points then. I still don't think we're talking about the offense necessarily having a great day, but it would have been more like what we kind of expect from this offense. But instead, it was a team that wasn't able to move the ball super effectively on Sunday against what I think is really good defense, but still.
Yeah, I do think that you got some strides from some guys, and Broderick Jones being one of them. I do think that he was more noticeable in this game in a good way. I don't think that he was getting beat one-on-one as easily. And honestly, some of the sacks, they were coverage sacks. I thought Aaron ran into at least one of them himself, just based off of how he was maneuvering in the pocket. I agree with you that Jaylen Warren was the best offensive player on Sunday. Carried the ball very well, great out of the backfield as a pass catcher. And I still am confused about not necessarily they didn't do it as much in this game as far as the carries go and the touches go between Kenneth Gainwell and Calvin Austin, or not Calvin Austin, excuse me, Jaylen Warren. But whenever you are looking at the snap counts being that close still, I don't understand it. And I really think that it needs to stop, because you should have your best player on the field majority of the time. And on Sunday, Jaylen Warren was your best player on the offense, and he only played in 58% of the snaps. Kenneth Gainwell, 42% of the snaps. I don't know what the fixation with Kenneth Gainwell is. He just must have like either a lot of respect from Arthur Smith or Tomlin, but I feel like the snaps need to come down. The experiment should be done for giving him that much look on the offense, and it should just be predominantly Jaylen Warren. And honestly, not that they were going to be playing him much anyway, but like Caleb Johnson didn't help that decision either on Sunday. I don't know how much you're going to see him recently, but still, Jaylen Warren should be playing more. And I thought that the tight ends didn't have the game that we expected, but they were still honestly more involved in the offense than the receivers were. I thought the receivers didn't look nearly as good as they did in week one. And I think that Calvin Austin took a step back. We talked about potentially him carrying that over from game one. I didn't think he was nearly as open. Even DK, I don't think that on some of his touches he was that open. Even on the touchdown, I think he just made a great play on the ball. I wouldn't necessarily say he got great separation on that play either. The offense is, to me, it took strides in some of the areas that were concerning, like the offensive line, like Broderick Jones specifically. You saw some better stuff out of the backfield from Jaylen Warren. Still not a great rushing effort in this one, but at the same time took a step back in certain areas where they looked better in week one, specifically in the most important one being Aaron Rodgers. He just flat out wasn't as good as he was in week one. And not to say that he has to have a 4 touchdown performance every single week, but I think just some of the decision making, some of the reading the defense, and I think that McDonald did throw some things at him that made him confused and just didn't have a good day on Sunday. And that led to a sub 60% completion percentage, and throwing a couple picks as well. It was a poor performance from the team overall. Offensively, a step down from what you saw a week ago. And just, it wasn't even offensively, but I don't know what Caleb Johnson was thinking. I know we have to talk
real quick before we go to that. I want to say, to me, more so than players against players, Mike McDonald just took Artie Smith to school in this one. I mean,
sure.
Coming off what I thought was his best game as the offensive coordinator, he had no answers for Mike McDonald. I mean, the big thing from why we thought Aaron played so well was just he was taking what was given to him, and there were a bunch of guys schemed open all day. There was nothing open for them in this one. Guys were creating no separation. Nobody was schemed open. Nobody was getting free releases. I just thought this was a coach taking another coach to school on Sunday above everything else from a personnel standpoint. So I just don't think that they had the answers to what the questions were from the Seattle Seahawks defense. But yeah, I mean, any thoughts there before we dive into the kickoff?
Yeah, I don't think it was a good game from Arthur Smith. It didn't seem like he was pushing the right buttons like he did in week 1. And it's almost like the Steelers have to have a perfect game caller week in and week out because of the inefficiencies that they have in their roster offensively. Like you don't have
they're not a super skilled group.
You don't have a great run game right now. You have an older quarterback and a wide receiver room that leaves a lot to be desired. It's almost like the importance of Arthur Smith from a weekly basis from how he's going to call the game is heightened just because of the roster he's dealt.
Yeah, 100%. And you would hope that your third round running back would be able to take a leap and work himself into that rotation in the backfield to mitigate some of those snaps of Kenny Gainwell, but that ain't happening anytime soon after what we watched happen on Sunday in a play that I don't know that you'll see happen again. And I put up a short talking about this being like the new role, and people were saying it's always been a live ball. Yes, if it stays in the field of play. If it was still the old way and that exact same thing happens, assuming that it didn't make, I don't know for sure. On the replay, I couldn't tell if it didn't make contact with Caleb Johnson and it was recovered in the end zone. And if it was recovered in the end zone, the old way, that's just a touchback. Mm-hmm. With the new rule, because it landed in the landing zone, even if it goes into the end zone, if the kicking team recovers it, it's a touchdown. That's the difference. That was what I was talking about. But no matter what, Caleb Johnson royally screwed up in a way that I don't think you're going to see happen again, from not just from the Steelers, but from anybody else this year. I think there's people that are either on one end of the spectrum with this, where they're either downplaying it way too much. I mean, do not undersell this. This is one of the worst plays that the Steelers have made in a long time. On the other side of it, no, he does not need to be cut from the roster.
Cut?
Does he need to
Who's saying he needs to be cut?
Oh, I've seen it on YouTube comments a ton.
Oh my
Not
gosh.
on here. On after.
I mean, both are very extreme. And yes. I haven't seen anybody say he's cut, so that's wild. But also trying to make it seem like that's a nothing play is also wild to me. And this is a fun conversation we're having, because on every area of the field, whether that is offense, defense, and now special teams, we get to talk about where the blame should be divvied up. On this play specifically, like, I understand Caleb Johnson is the one that physically made the act, but it's like, how much? I don't know. What did Caleb Johnson say after the game? Did he know the rule? Because if that's not
the
case,
thing is,
I'm not even just blaming him. Like, how much blame should be on Danny Smith? Like, why do your players not know that rule? It's wild to me that was even the case. And also, I want to say before you go, it's even wilder to me that it happened so nonchalant, at least for me being a TV spectator, because I'll be honest, a lot of the time I don't really care watching kickoff, but and so sometimes I'm still on my phone between what's going on. I didn't even realize what was happening until I heard it's going to be a touchdown Seahawks, whatever the Fox announcers were saying. And I look up and I see that they're in the end zone, and I'm like, what, did we fumble or something? And I see the replay and I'm like, oh my goodness, how in the world did this happen? Because not only is that just a boneheaded play flat out from your player, from your coach, whoever you want to put the blame on, but that royally screwed up any amount of comeback that the Steelers were going to have.
The game was
as soon as that play was happening, the game was dead.
You don't win a game after something like that happens. The Steelers don't lose too many games where they have multiple interceptions. Add on top of that, the Seahawks doinked the field goal. The Steelers win that game 10 times out of 10, typically. Didn't in this one because they did something like that. And we talked about like pointing fingers when you talk about the defense and offense and how to divvy it up. To me, you can just point the finger right at one guy with this happening. It's pretty easy to see who messed up on that one. The thing that I will say is, I even posted a tweet before this happened. Caleb Johnson just should not have been on kickoffs to begin with. So if you want to place blame for him even being out on the field, sure. But in terms of that play happening, look no further than Caleb Johnson himself in terms of where to place blame. He said after the game, to answer your question about that, whether I do or don't know the rule, I need to make sure to field it or something like that. But either way, we're not going to see him on kick return for I hopefully ever again. But hopefully he is able to work his way into a larger role in the offense. He just never was a fit. It almost, in hindsight, it seems like
even offensively, because I feel like
here's the thing: he fumbled in week 1
on special teams.
They recovered it, but he fumbled it in week 1 on the kickoff. Like, again, this just seems like it was an accident waiting to happen, and it happened. It just happened super early in the season.
It happened in a big way.
That's
probably the second time a meme of, and then I said touchdown Seahawks, throwing back to that Packers game years ago. Now you got this meme too.
Tomlin is very similar to Cowher in that, like, you got to show on special teams first, typically. And
I mean, if that's him showing on special teams, maybe he should be cut.
I think he's going to be in the doghouse offensively. I'll be honest, I'm not predicting this, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't have a helmet on Sunday and they elevate Trey Sermon.
I'm already planning on dropping him from one of my fantasy teams just to picking up somebody else on the waivers because I know that dude's not seeing the field ever. At least for right now.
Like in a redraft league?
Yeah, in a redraft league. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. That's tough. I mean, I feel for him for sure. It's a tough situation.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard, especially knowing that it was an honest mistake. Like, as boneheaded as it is, it was a mistake. He has to accept that, but like, he's getting ripped for it too. I'm not going to say it's not justified, but I feel for the guy.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to learn a lot about him in terms of his mental makeup, in terms of how does he bounce back from this, because he is in the doghouse right now. Tomlin had to address it, obviously, but that's like as much as you'll see Tomlin address an individual player in a negative way, I feel like. So we're not going to see Caleb Johnson, I don't think, for a while.
And because of that, I think that the offense should shift to Jaylen Warren being a more premier back instead of playing a split backfield.
Yeah, do they feel like he has like a cap? Like, I don't understand in terms of...
I don't know. There's the 3 years he played with Najee Harris, where Najee Harris was the more premier back in terms of snap count. Is that playing into their mindset that he can only play so many snaps?
But there was times where Jaylen played more. That's why I'm about to do it again. I didn't want this to happen, but I'm going to give Matt Canada some credit here. If there was one thing Canada was good at, it was understanding which back had the hot hand in game and relying on that back more. We saw that happen with Jaylen Warren plenty of times where he ended up out snapping Najee Harris. I mean, Jaylen Warren can take on more of a workload than he has. He didn't touch after that insane play that he got them down to inside the 5 or whatever, created a bunch after the catch. He wasn't on the field after that play. I understand he would have needed a breather.
Take him off for one play and then put him back on.
Yeah. F it. I mean, nah, they wouldn't have done this. I would say call a timeout if you have to, just to get him back on the field. He's your best offensive player.
Maybe they should have.
But
hindsight, they should have. But looking 58% of the snaps to Kenneth Gainwell's 42. I'm sorry. I really feel like Jaylen Warren should be at least at 70% of the offensive snaps. At least. I feel like they just need to, whatever experiment they're doing with Kenneth Gainwell, and I don't know what that experiment is, because you did see his touches go down, but not necessarily his snaps.
They actually had both on the field at one point, and I was like super intrigued by it, and then they just did a handoff to Kenny Gainwell up the middle. And I'm like, this is what we're doing out of this formation? Yeah, his touches went down for sure, but like any touch of his that is a between the tackles run just seems like a waste of a down to me. Like he's doing nothing with it. Like Kenny Gainwell's snaps are just, I understand what he can do in pass pro, and he can run some routes like a receiver. So split him out wide. Have Jaylen Warren on the field in the backfield and have Kenny Gainwell out wide doing something. I don't know. This offense is looking for answers.
You need a
right now.
12% swing in both running backs' way. Up 12% for Jaylen Warren, down 12% for Kenneth Gainwell, because that would put the snap counts, but for both of those guys at 70% and 30%. And you might as well consider that 100% of the snaps for the running backs. Ain't no way in hell we're seeing Caleb Johnson on offense this weekend. I'm sorry.
That's why
I have a hard time imagining even one offensive snap.
If you're not going to play him on offense, and obviously he's not going to play on kick return, then make him inactive. Give Trey Sermon a helmet. Let me see a little Trey Sermon instead of Kenny Gainwell between the tackles.
Yeah, honestly. He only played 2% or 2 snaps, 3% of the snaps offensively in this game as it is. There's no way that he's getting a snap. No way.
Yeah.
You would have to have, knocking on wood, like catastrophic running back injuries where like both of your other guys go down for him to have an impact in this game. I mean, we're going to preview this game on Saturday, so we're not really talking about that much, but I'm just saying it's not going to happen.
Sure. Yeah. Anything else to discuss? Searching for solutions on offense. Isaiah Hodgins, former Giants wide receiver, was signed to the team. 6'4", 200 pounds. Let's not make it seem like this guy's like some needle mover or anything like that. But he's a different type of player that they didn't have in the room. He's a bigger body that can block. He's a red zone threat. Kind of had a little bit of a knack in terms of finding some soft spots. I'll just say he's slow.
Probably better than any other option.
He's pretty slow for a receiver. I'll say it just straight up. He's the primary backup probably right now if DK Metcalf, knock on wood, were to go down at any point. Completely fine with this addition to the room. I'm not going to make it a bigger deal.
I don't think this changes the depth chart of the receivers at all. It's just another body that they have there that's different than the rest of them.
The one thing I will say is, could it from a Scotty Miller perspective? That's the one guy I think about.
Yeah.
That's the one guy I think about that maybe gets.
But he also, looking at this last game, he only had 9 snaps.
Yeah, he played 9, and how many did he play last game?
I think it was more than that. I think it was like 12.
I thought it was less because I think Skoranek and Roman only played 10 in week 1, and he was less than them.
Oh, was he?
So, yeah, it might have been 9 that week. So, yeah, I mean, whatever he's vacated. But to be honest, that was a guy based off the preseason, the way Aaron Rodgers was talking about him. We were wondering if he'd have a bigger role. And it's only 2 weeks in, but
yeah, he had 9.
I don't know. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, Hodgins at the very least, if he gets a helmet, we'll see who it's over, but that's the guy I would think about losing his spot. Roman Wilson did get his first NFL catch in this one for 7 yards.
Yeah, he also had an increased snap count in this game, not like outrageous numbers, 22 snaps, 35% of the offensive snaps. That's at least, it's double the production of what you got. Not production, but double the snaps of what you got the week before.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hodgins is a different type of receiver. I think it's a fine addition to the room at this point. Not going to make it seem like
I guess you could say that him getting 1 catch is more than 100% of the production that you got the week before. So,
dude, if they run, imagine they go like 5 wide in the red zone, and it's just DK Metcalf, Darnell Washington, Pat, Jonnu, and Isaiah Hodgins.
That would be very tall.
How tall is DK?
I think DK is 6'3".
So he'd be the shortest one.
Yeah.
In that situation.
DK Metcalf. Oh, he's 6'4". Never mind.
Okay. All right. So 2 guys that are 6'4".
I'll say, yeah, so he's tied. Dude, that'd be ridiculous.
Hey, let's throw it out there. We're looking for solutions right now on the offensive side of the ball. So whatever we can do a little bit differently. Actually, John News listed as 6'3". I thought he was 6'5". John, who's the smallest one? If you're going 5 wide with those guys.
I want to see it now.
All right. Anyways, that's it. We'll be back for Steelers Saturday Sit Down to preview the game against the New England Patriots. Talk more about this. Couple new additions. How we think they're going to factor into this. Would Jabril Peppers play more? What the plan of attack is going to be against this team. I do have to go back and watch New England's last game against Miami to get a little bit of a feel for what they're going to throw at us. Mike Vrabel, obviously first season as head coach, so things could be different. Drake May, pretty solid start to the season for him. He looked really good last week. And a guy I really like. And we'll see. But we'll talk about that more. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here on YouTube if you are here. Leave us a 5-star review and subscribe if you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from. You will find us there. Just search around the 412. Do the same thing on all of your socials and be sure to follow us over there. Whether you're watching or listening, check out the links in the description. All of our great sponsors listed there, including one we have not talked about yet. That's Marcelo Electric right above Tyler right now. This sucks. I usually read right off his Facebook page, and it's not loading right now.
Wow, the quality of the content. Trying to get the ad read.
All right, let's see if I can remember this. Serving Beaver, Allegheny, Lawrence, and Butler County. Hit them up 724-614-0611. There we go. All right, 724-614-0611. Again, that's Marcelo Electric, Beaver, Allegheny, Lawrence, and Butler County. Whether it's residential, commercial, or a service call, he's got you covered. Go to the link in the description and take you right to his Facebook page. All of his work is there. That contact information that I just read off will be there as well. Yeah, that was, man. It's like you're sitting in the batter's box going against Steens, and he throws you a pitch you've never seen before. And you got to swing. But anyway, and then obviously the ones we've already talked about before, Game Changers, Keats Barbershop. Save yourself $10 at Game Changers when you use code AT412. Then you can book an appointment with Keats if you download the app, The Cut, or do a walk-in, of course, over there as well. I think that's it. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. As we said, notification bell, very important these days because we got shorts dropping every single day. And then on Saturday, of course, we'll go live for Steelers Saturday Sit Down. You can find Tyler, Weiler_Teach33. Find me, Zachary Smith, PGH. Till Saturday, we'll see you then to preview this game. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.